Well, welcome everyone to Inside the Music with the Symphony of Northwest Arkansas. I want to introduce our music director, Paul Haas, and then myself, I am Sarah Pearson, the assistant conductor. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much, sir. Glad to be here with you.
Yes, we're so excited to be back for the 2023-2024 season, and we're kicking it off here on Saturday, September 23rd. And our concert kickoff is with Great Romantics. But before we talk about the concert, I would love for our audience and patrons to maybe get to know you just a little bit more, maybe on a personal note, if you're okay with that.
Of course, nothing
Okay.
better.
So maybe we'll start with this. What made you want to become a musician?
Oof.
Or maybe it wasn't an option. Maybe you were forced to. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no. In fact, quite the opposite. No, so my first musical experience actually was going to my sister's violin lesson when I was 5. And apparently, so I just sat there and listened and watched, and apparently I wouldn't shut up afterwards until they gave me violin lessons. And so that was the beginning of my career, was just being the squeaky wheel, and I got the grease. I started
Awesome.
taking violin in kindergarten, and the rest is history.
So did you continue to play that? That was like my next question. What instruments you played in high school and college?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I continued playing violin until high school, but then I really got interested in composing and piano and jazz and rock, honestly. Like I was in bands and a cappella. I just kind of exploded in
Yeah.
high school and did everything under the sun. And I continued to play violin through sort of, I guess it was freshman year in college, but then I got way more interested in piano and score study and stuff like that. Um and uh and uh composing. I don't know. I was all over the map. Um, and yeah, I chose to focus on what it took to develop the conducting side, honestly, which is simultaneously the composing side, just the sort of learning everything.
Yes, exactly. What is that? Do you feel like for you that aspect of music is where you're at that was like with the seed that was like birth that like you felt the most passionate about music at that point, like that was what was driving you?
Yeah, it was the totality of everything,
Yeah.
how it all came together, that really moved me and got me excited. And then I started my own orchestra when I was at Yale, in my sophomore year. And I had so many supportive people around me, both on the administration side. They gave me the dining hall and they paid for all the music rentals and let me have concerts there. And then just friends at school who agreed to, be tortured by me on a weekly basis. Um, and so I started my own orchestra there and did it for what was like 4 years by the end. And that's really where I cut my teeth and learned not only how hard it is, but how joyful and fun and rewarding it is to go from the beginning to the end with rehearsing and interpreting and just making music.
And that's such a gift. I mean, I can speak from that too. You know, I started my own orchestra back in 2016, and I know
Yeah.
what it is to do it from the ground up. And it's so rewarding, but it's exhausting. And so there's a lot of things behind the scene people don't realize, but you do it because you love it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, silly things that you just wouldn't think
Yeah.
of, like calling people to remind them that the rehearsal is that Sunday.
Like, please show
And
up.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, and like what food are you gonna serve to the audience members after the concert and silly stuff like that? Where are you going to advertise it?
Right.
There's so many things to think about, and the gift is at a place like SoNA
Mm.
that we have a team of incredibly talented people who honestly make all that stuff uh happen. just, I mean, it appears effortless from the outside, but there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, that's amazing, that you have that as part of your history and background. So maybe you could tell our audience maybe a favorite performance you've had. Maybe it's a recent one, maybe it was a long time ago. I don't know. Maybe what was most memorable about it?
Now, are you referring to one that I conducted or one that I went as an
Yeah, one
audience
that you
member?
conducted, or maybe that you were an audience member. I don't know. I mean, as conductors, often that doesn't happen because we're usually
Yeah,
leading it.
we're always busy.
Yeah.
No. I'll start with one that I conducted. So, I mean, it's really hard to pick one, but I have to say that um the recent Mahler 6
Mm,
that I conducted with SoNA, was it a year and a few months ago,
last year, yeah.
really sticks out for me as just, I mean, it was Herculean,
Yeah.
and just in the preparation, right? And it's the kind of piece where every single person on the stage is just sort of violently, passionately in love with this music and just wants to, swing for the fences. And so we really did that. And I have such an incredible feeling just in my heart, right? From that undertaking. It's just everyone was in it 150%. And clearly the audience as well. And that, I felt some of that also, actually a lot of that with Copeland 3
Yeah.
this past
Oh, yeah.
season with SoNA. Um, it's one of these things that you never get to play, right? It's
Mm.
just hardly ever programmed. And so, especially the brass players just were ready. They were chomping at the bit to play this music. And it's kind of risky to program something like that because you're not really sure, because I had never actually heard it live except maybe at Tanglewood when I was really, really young.
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know what an audience is going to think. But I was really happy with the reaction we got. And so, yeah, I guess those two, especially if we're talking about SoNA,
Yeah.
especially, are two of
Yeah.
my very, very favorite concerts.
Yeah. I have to say, being there as well, it was palpable. Like you could taste the energy and just the focus that everyone had on stage, and even the audience, the patrons, they were just all in on this. And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting when you uh there are two ways you could go about it. You could say, this we could do a piece that's, on the easier side. I mean, no piece is actually easy, but really, really doable, you know, and that's not going to require a whole lot of extra
Right.
work and pain and
Right.
suffering along the way. Um, and that's safe, and it works out fine. But when you really challenge every single player to the utmost and challenge yourself, right, to the utmost,
Yeah.
it makes a real difference because you're figuring out that you really can do something that you didn't think you could do.
Right.
And it's pretty incredible to be in a situation like that. So we strive always to push ourselves past that point where it feels comfortable. So we have no choice but to grow in the process.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about our opening concert, because that kind of ties into this. We're going to be pushing ourselves again as an orchestra as we're visiting the works of Leonard Bernstein and Rachmaninoff. Do you want to talk just a little bit about those as we're getting started?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you'll make it into a conversation with me, because
Sure. Yeah, I would
I
love to.
really
Yeah.
I don't want to hold forth necessarily.
Oh,
We'll wait until the pre-concert until the creative conversation. But yeah, no, these are two, it's funny. We were talking earlier, you and I, about the Rachmaninoff and Bernstein. You'd never suspect that they had so much in common. right?
Yeah, it's like they're almost identical. Both are composers, pianists, and conductors. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, and both New Yorkers.
yeah, New Yorkers. And Lenny had his a debut, like a spur of the moment, wasn't it, with Bruno Walter, right?
Yeah,
Like
Bruno Walter.
yeah, it was rep he didn't really know, and he was just thrown into it, and then he like made the New York Times right after that, and just like it's
Yeah, no, he
started for him. And I think even for Rachmaninoff, right? You know, he ended up studying, he switched teachers, and he's ended up studying with Tchaikovsky, right? And those influences.
right. Yeah, no, he's it's interesting. I mean, uh, I mean, okay, so maybe let's start with Bernstein
Yeah, sure.
because that's what the concert starts with.
Yeah,
I
sounds good.
mean, yeah, West Side Story has a really interesting, I mean, of course it's West Side Story and everybody knows it and everybody can hum all the tunes. And it was, you know, it was one of the most famous musicals ever made. It
Right.
was, you know, I think it won Academy Award Best
I
Picture or
think
whatever they
like
called it.
was it like
Uh, for the
7
movie version made a couple of years, like it was like 19,
61 is when it actually went to Broadway, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but then later on.
Um, so let's see. Yeah, I mean it was this collaboration. It was
Mhm.
it's like a project that shouldn't have been successful. Like it broke all the rules.
Right.
It didn't have a happy ending,
Mm. It was
right?
based on Romeo and Juliet, right? If our patrons and audience don't know, I mean, that's kind of the
Yeah,
theme.
it's an adaptation of a tragedy, right? Done in uh musical comedy language,
Yeah.
right? With dancing
Yeah.
and the whole nine yards with so it's in this the musical comedies,
Right.
musical theater idiom, but with this musical language that's incredibly complex, right?
Yeah.
And we'll hear that in these in the first piece on this concert. I feel like uh, it's you had to it's if you were betting on this musical and you didn't know who Leonard Bernstein was, and nobody really did,
Right.
uh it would you would bet that it would fail because it basically broke all the rules.
Right.
You had you know basically taboo subject matter. You know, he started out wanting to write about you know, tensions between the Jewish community and
And
the
the
Catholic
Catholics, yeah.
community, like on the Lower East Side. That's where it started out.
Then they're like, oh, scratch that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's you know that wouldn't have played so well through time. But you know it's current today,
Yeah.
right? It's current. It's this sort of this idea of America as a melting pot, but that you know that was pretty risky
Yeah.
as subject matter back then, and to have it end as a tragedy,
Hmm.
uh, it just it was let's I'm just glad. I think we're all glad that they ended up doing it because
Yeah.
it defied the odds and was incredibly popular. That's to you know to state the obvious. Uh, let's see. What else to talk about West Side Story? I mean, this
I
is the
think even to talk about Lenny, you know, about some of his contributions, because, you know, we've done a lot of his music over the years, but he has, what a contributor to and supporter of classical music too. That
yeah.
like he was like I think he was very, very close friends with Copeland, right? We
Yeah,
just
he was Copeland was one of was his mentor, I believe, starting at Tanglewood, but then obviously grew into a very close friendship. In fact, I think it was like towards the end, I think it was Lenny who reported this that Copeland when he was you know towards the end and Copeland really couldn't express himself at all,
right.
he would sit there at the piano with anyone who was with him and he would play, you know, the first six pitches of Appalachian Spring. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da.
Yeah.
He would just play that and look at you in the eye, and that was his way of communicating at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this incredible uh, uh just incredible man, right? Just in so many ways. I mean,
Yeah.
he broke the rules wherever you could break the rules. I mean, he was to have a career basically in upper crust America.
Mhm.
Uh, he got married, but he was staunchly bisexual,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
I
Right.
mean, I think his wife was the one, or someone who said it, that he uh he's basically
The
he
emotional was the women and the sexual was the men, or something like that, is what she said.
yeah, that's
Like
that
that.
that's
Yeah.
the that's what I
I
was
think
trying to
that's
remember
what
though.
she said. But they ended up getting back together, just so
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was I think they broke up,
yeah.
and he began relationships with men, but then later when she got lung cancer, I think it
Yeah.
was,
He went back with her and
he
stayed until
went,
she passed.
yeah, and just basically nursed her to
Yeah.
the end. Clearly, this was not just like some sort of sham marriage.
No,
Um,
it's a great
but
friendship.
and it's sort of sign of the times. They both died of smoking related illness, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's he lived a long time, right?
Yeah,
I
he did
mean,
actually. Yeah.
I
There's videos of him, conducting way late into his career. I think he was like retired like 3 days from, and then he passed away. So he didn't have much of a
yeah.
retirement. Yeah.
I mean, he died when he was what, 73 or
Something like that.
72, something like that.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was at Tanglewood in high school, studying during the summer, and I went, I went to his 70th birthday celebration at Tanglewood at the Shed, and I'll never forget it. That the first half of the program was, TMC fellows conducting this, that, and the other thing, and everyone was like, "That was good." Um, but then Lenny came on, and
Yeah.
he conducted Rite of Spring
Oh my word. I
for
bet it
the
was
second half, and you could have heard pin drop the whole time, and everyone's eyes were bugging, and
great.
or at least mine were, and I just assumed everyone else's were. I mean, he was just magical. I mean, his energy, his clear command of the music, but just like it was a story. It was just he was telling a story. Everything was so natural,
Yeah.
um, and just so full of passion, emotion. Um, and I wasn't even in, I was way out on the lawn for that. I mean,
Right.
but it just, I don't know. Let's talk about a concert I'll never forget.
Yeah,
You
for
asked me
real.
earlier.
For
That's
real.
one.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, no, Bernstein was just everything to everyone.
Yeah, he was.
He was the American composer. He was the American conductor.
Yeah.
He was the best pianist of the conductors.
Right.
um and just a magnificent human being. So it's really lovely to be able to touch on Bernstein every couple of years, just
Right.
because and everything he ever wrote was so crazily different from everything else.
Right. Some conductors, it's kind of like their signatures throughout it, but his are so different.
Right, I mean, you think of West Side Story, right? Something like
Right.
Mambo.
It's
And
awesome.
then you think of Jeremiah Symphony,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then I mean, I just
The Chester Psalms that we've done.
Chichester songs that we did,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally, totally
completely,
different. Yeah.
out in left field compared to the others.
Yeah.
And like Candide Overture, what?
Right.
Where did that come from?
Right.
He was like he was a chameleon. He could be anything. Just
Yeah.
Quicksilver, change from this to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it was all Lenny, right? It's all him. Yeah, there's something very magical in that persona, and in his output, both as composer and as conductor. So
Yeah.
really, I mean, show me any conductor out there, any American conductor at least, and any American composer, and you can bet, we're all highly influenced by Bernstein.
Oh yeah, like one of my mentors and teachers, Larry Radcliffe, worked with Lenny, and so some of the things that I have learned, he learned from Lenny, and it's just so cool to have
Yeah.
that big piece of that.
Yeah, I have the funniest story I have about him is during that summer, he was there working with all the orchestras. So the orchestra that I conducted a few weeks ago, right? The
Right.
Boston University Tanglewood Institute Young Artists Orchestra. So he was there in whatever it was, 1980, 88, I think it was, summer. Um, and he went in to that orchestra and worked with them for 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that at the beginning, and they were doing Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony,
Mm.
and they got to the second movement, and of course it's tradition there that the oboist plays that first solo in one breath, and it's difficult,
Mm.
and uh but everyone trains and can do it, but at that age you don't know whether someone's actually learned it.
Right.
So but he got in there, and it was my friend Liza Goitin who was playing the principal oboe part, and he got up there and he made a speech about how, I don't know, it's I'll be really happy if you can do it the way the way it's intended to do, or whatever he said about, in one breath. And so let's try this. And so they did it, and she's like off the charts amazing, right? And so she played it in one breath, but more musically than you hear anyone else play it. And he stopped. He just stopped the whole orchestra and looked at her like his jaw was down, and he just parted the Red Sea. He walked through the strings, walked back to the first row of woodwinds, and I kid you not, gave her like a kiss. Like not just like a peck, but like a kiss.
Oh,
Everyone just lost it.
that's amazing. That sounds just like something he would have done too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, let's talk just a little bit about Rachmaninoff. I mean, equally a composer, pianist, and conductor, and we're going to be performing his second symphony. Do we want to talk a little bit about his journey, how he got there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I'm at Rachmaninoff. Bernstein had a colorful life. Rachmaninoff had an
Yeah.
equally colorful life. I mean, this is a guy who, he's from a noble family.
Yes.
His dad completely messed up and lost their money. They had to move to St. Petersburg because they had to sell off their estate, and basically rely on the kindness of other family members and whoever would be nice.
Right.
And so his talents were obvious at an early age, pianistically speaking, and he gradually began to compose. Uh, when he went to conservatory, he had a falling out with
Yeah.
his piano teacher. They later made up, but the falling out was that his piano teacher didn't want him to compose. And he
Right.
wanted him to just be a pianist, because how can you possibly be a great pianist if you're also composing? You're dividing your efforts.
Mm.
And so he had a falling out. That then, when he nailed his final exams, his professor gave him his golden watch as sort of as a token of goodwill, and that let's let bygones be bygones. But so he had a great pedigree coming out of school,
Yeah.
and just he was making money. he had all the important people backing him, and then he wrote his first symphony, and it got completely trashed. The performance was apparently horrible.
Yeah,
I
the
think it
conductor was
was Glazunov
like,
was conducting,
yeah,
and Rachmaninoff never said that Glazunov was drunk, but other people said that
yeah, the
Glazunov was
review said,
drunk.
yeah,
And just the rehearsal went badly. We know how hard it is when you actually have an organized rehearsal and everybody knows the music and has it ahead of time to do a world premiere of something. Like, that's hard.
yeah, it is. I mean, it takes
And
more.
then the whole program, I think, was world premieres. And so you got someone who doesn't know how to rehearse, and you've got all new music and people who either are or aren't taking it seriously. And you got a recipe for disaster. So apparently Rachmaninoff was just completely crestfallen after this. The reviews came out, and one of them said that this sounds like it would have been really well received in a conservatory in hell.
Where they was not very kind at all, like reading
No.
things, it's
Well, I
like
mean,
word.
let's be fair though, it was basically the pop music of the time, right? And people are fully willing to trash, I mean, rake over the coals, someone's debut album
Oh yeah.
in pop music. And so yeah, so he went into a horrible depression and just stopped composing. Basically, he was he just couldn't do it, and it was a long time. I think it was
Was it like 3 years? It was like pretty long.
yeah, it was at least a few years. And then he began, on recommendation of either a friend or family member, he went and saw
A
um,
hypnotist,
saw
right?
an
Not a
analyst,
therapy.
is psychotherapist and hypnotherapist together. And this guy apparently led him back from the other side, right? And brought him back into a place where he could feel creative and live again. And it's to this guy, really, do we owe Rachmaninoff's output, right? Because then from 1901 to 1910 or whatever it was, he wrote
Large
everything,
out, but yeah,
like
right.
everything that we love.
Yeah.
Right. So the second symphony, the second, well, the start and the second piano concerto was right around the same time. He dedicated that, actually, the second piano concerto, Rock 2,
Yeah.
to this therapist. And so yeah, it's this sort of this blossoming that happens with this piece that we're going to play, with his second symphony. And it's a symphony that it's had an interesting history. Like a lot of people through the decades, I guess it's been over a century now, they've a lot of people have thought that it was too long, right? That it's gorgeous,
Yeah.
but it needed to be cut somehow. So people have like carved out sections of it to make it shorter. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't need any cuts. This is gorgeous music. It's incredibly well crafted. It's exciting, it's moving. You could easily close your eyes and have it tell a story to you, whatever that story is. It goes from just the most gorgeous
Like the opening itself, just with the I guess the focus and the smallness of it at the beginning and that opening theme and then how it builds out. It's just so
Oh
incredible.
yeah, and just how that theme is developed and brought back in all the movements. And it's just, he's, it's sort of an homage to Tchaikovsky in that way.
Right.
Tchaikovsky was sort of taking a page from Brahms. There's you can see this sort of chain through time of all the composers influencing each other. But I'll never understand why Rachmaninoff it isn't thought of in the same breath as these other composers. I mean, this music is astonishing, you know. And what's the purpose of music, right? Is it not to move us?
Really
Right? And who moves us more than Rachmaninoff in the symphony? I mean, there's so much to it. It's clearly an expression of life for him, a life that he recently got back. I mean, I know a lot of us have maybe we haven't gone through such severe depression as Rachmaninoff went through, but we've all had times when things just don't make sense the way they normally do, right? And we have to somehow climb out of that. Like I think that all of us can relate to that idea. For a lot of us, you can even put it in a physical way, like when I broke my leg or I broke my arm, you don't take it for granted again, ever. Right. And so to have an experience where you lose what was precious to you about life, and then and kind of get used to the idea that it's gone.
Right.
And you're just a shell of yourself. And then all of a sudden to have that back, it's just incomparable. You can't you can't overstress the amazement and the wonder and the joy that comes with that sort of second fulfillment,
right,
of getting it again. Just a magnificent piece of music, and it really does that, right? It takes you from wherever you are into this fantastic world where you notice everything, where you're entirely present, and you're just aware of all of the beauty. Whether the beauty is happy or sad, it's still beautiful.
Yeah. And Rachmaninoff it's like the humanity for all of us is coming out in the symphony from what he experienced.
Yeah.
That when words fell, the music speaks to us, just like you're talking about.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting that, after his third piano concerto, basically after 1910 or 11, something like that, he really didn't write much more.
Right.
And so it's these golden years in the middle that yielded such incredible fruit. And so let's be thankful, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, for sure.
It's there for us.
As we're wrapping up today, we have just about like a little over a minute or so left of our time together. Do you have anything else that you want our patrons to know about our opening night and concert together, of things to be ready to listen for, or things that you want to share?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I think I got to plug the rest of the season, right? We've got the Great Romantics.
Right. Yes.
And then our first guest conductor in like maybe ever, I don't remember. But Larry Lowe, Lawrence Lowe's fantastic conductor, coming in for the Halloween concert. He's an old friend and colleague of mine. I've known the guy 30 years now. I know. I'm aging myself. But he's phenomenal. You're gonna enjoy him a bunch. We've got the Christmas concert. Don't need to say anything about that. The Snowman, this is in December, and of course, we've got December with our SoNA, like a very SoNA Christmas. That's a great tradition, along with the Snowman. There's not much to say about that except for it's some of my favorite concerts
Yes.
ever, and audiences just love it. So if you haven't been, you got to come. And then this concert we're playing in January is really, really special. We're going to be performing the world premiere of a piano concerto written for Laura Downs, who's played up at Crystal Bridges before and is sort of a known quantity in this region. And so Aldo Lopez Gavilan, this amazing composer, is we chose him to write this piece for her and for us to premiere. And this is the first time we're doing this. And it's a very exciting time for us to be able to help give birth to a piece of music, and one that we think will be absolutely fantastic. So that's going to be fun. And on the same program is a piece that I literally didn't even know. I'd never heard of it about a year ago. And it's by William Dawson. It's called Negro Folk Symphony. And just reading that title or hearing that title, you have no idea what it's going to be like. But I guarantee you, this is a phenomenal work. Yeah. You're just not going to believe what you heard. I mean, yeah. There's no explanation, a good explanation why this is not played by everyone all the time.
And it's based on Black spirituals, if I recall, right?
Yeah. So and of course we're doing another sort of it's called Defying Expectations, the concert in February. This is going to have Louise Farrenc, her Symphony No. 3. Just I mean, it's again another one of those pieces. Why is this not in the standard repertoire? Right. It's just
and it's just reemerged, right? I mean,
I mean, people literally didn't even know who Farrenc was until a couple of years ago, when everyone started to get interested in female composers, right? And composers of color, and just generally ignored composers. And so here we have this richness that we now have to draw upon. So Farrenc is one of these people I just can't wait for you guys to hear. It's going to be incredible. And of course, you know, Beethoven's Ninth at the end. There's nothing really to say about that except for I can't wait. It's going to be an amazing
200th anniversary. They should know, like, that's part of the reason we're celebrating. It's a big anniversary year for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 200.
Yeah.
That's a lot of years, and it has stood the test of time. And not just musically, but the message, right?
The brotherhood of man.
If I say brotherhood, it's, you know, we're talking about the whole family, right? It's the idea that everyone is getting used to, that we're all part of this big web. Yeah. It even goes beyond humanity. It's everything. We're all connected. There is no me. Right? The more we can think about we, the better off we are. So totally. It's an eternal message that we can't hear enough. And the music, of course, is beyond compare. So just cannot wait for this entire season. Very excited for it.
Yes, and you and the music committee have done an amazing job of putting that together. It's just something for everyone at every concert. I really believe that they'll walk away with a greater connection.
I'm excited to see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I can't wait. I feel, you know, the summer is long, but it's short at the same time, and it's so great to get back and see everyone.
Right, yeah. I mean, summer's long, but it's so busy and packed with so many things. It's like where it just goes away.
Right.
But luckily, as musicians, when we get back to work, we love what we do.
Yeah, we do. And we can't wait to see everyone at our concerts. Be sure to check our page for Inside the Music. We'll have links so you can learn more about Rachmaninoff and about Bernstein on those links. There's some listening. You can listen to some of their other works that they are connected to, that they composed, but also you can even listen to some of the pieces that we'll be playing. I think we put out some links and you can watch along with the score. So kind of see what that looks like together. And of course, the places that you can eat and stay and dine. So I can just make it a whole event that night. Anything else you want to say to everyone before we head out, Paul?
I just want to say thank you to you because
Yeah,
you're the one who made this whole thing possible.
yeah,
This whole conversation
yeah,
series, the page, the all the information that helps people really dive into what the music is about. This is
yeah.
all you. And just a big shout out to you for all the work that's gone into this, and helping make it a richer experience for all of us.
Oh yeah, so we can all just come and be just kind of like you were talking about earlier about the concerts that we had, with Copeland and with Mahler, how there was just this incredible energy and connection, and so we want to build that before you come, so that you're so prepared and know what to expect, and just make it an amazing experience.
Yeah, definitely. The final thing I would say is just, yeah, come to the creative conversations
Yes.
ahead of time. They're always uh let's see, 6:30 for
Yes.
a
Yeah.
7:30 concert.
Yeah.
And yeah, come because I'll be talking more about just the intricate details, just maybe the backstories
Mm.
and things you won't find out otherwise. So it's they're getting more and more popular, more and more people are coming, but we can always seat more people. So please come.
Yeah, and bring your friends.
Yeah,
All right, Paul, well, we'll see you in a couple weeks, and everyone else, we hope to see you on Saturday, September 23rd. And thanks for joining us today, Paul.
thanks, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.